Well, they released a new Spider-Man cartoon, and this one has evidently been a pretty controversial thing for a while, which is why I've been happily avoiding any news about it. Anyway, the cartoon in question. Was it good? Eh. Look, it's not bad, I just have to admit that it didn't really move me. Which is weird because I liked a lot of what was in it, I just didn't like how it was put together. Spoilers, by the way. Now, first things first, this show's look. I am not the guy to go to for art stuff, but I can tell this show is very stylistic in an attempt to look like a moving classic comic book. So it's weird that I think it looks most awkward when they use the characters to actually emulate a comic page and have them stop moving. Shading threw me off a bit at first, but I got used to it. Also, pausing on a straight shot of Peter's square jaw makes me feel like his head is simply too big for his body. It weirdly really drew my attention to the black people. I don't know why, maybe to the hair or the way the brown looks against the thick black outlines. Speaking of black people, race swaps. It happened. I've made my feelings clear on this in the past, but basically I don't see the point of changing the character's race or gender unless it benefits the plot. But I also kind of just gloss over the changes if I don't particularly care about the character. The big change everyone's talking about is the fact that the Osborns are black now, and I'm going to be perfectly honest. I have a problem with this, but only because I think it's much more amusing when they have immaculate waves as white redheads. Anyway, add another character to the redhead genocide meme. I won't lie though, my brain kinda did a double take at the black female Dr. Connors. Like, what are the chances that isn't just a 100% aesthetic change to the character? But you wanna know the real instance of not making a character their usual color I find myself questioning? Making Tombstone black. I mean, he was already African American, but he's not albino. Wait, I think Peter and May are the only major white characters in this show. Twitter's gonna have a lot of fun with this. A lot of people don't like the animation, and I think it has to do with how the pseudo 2D character models look while moving. But I've already spent far more time than I like not talking about the writing, so let's get to that. One of the most important things about telling an ongoing story is hooking the audience and getting them to be like, wow, I can't wait to see the rest of this. And maybe this is just me personally, but that didn't really happen until episode 2. And even then, that didn't really happen until the end of episode 2. Oh, I can recognize the various attempts. The show puts a lot of spice and intrigue into Peter's origin story by mixing it up with Doctor Strange fighting what looked like some sort of symbiote monster. I could be wrong, but it really gives me time travel vibes, though upon further consideration I realize that's incredibly unlikely unless the show is pulling a CW Flash. But you see, that's kind of not relevant at all. Doctor Strange isn't even publicly recognized, so until he comes back, that's just a thing that happened. That's how I feel about a lot of the setups for future plotlines across these 2 episodes. Like, sure, but what's the current plotline like? You kind of don't have one. Now, one thing I really like about this cartoon is, well, the superheroics. I know that's a weird thing to focus on, but I like the way the series emphasizes the whole helping people aspect of superheroes and the action that accompanies that when taking down bad guys. Maybe I'm easily impressed. In case you just heard anything, that's the entire Miraculous Ladybug fandom laughing at the idea. But I like seeing Peter just going around catching criminals. And he's actually pretty effective at it and clearly knows what he's doing. He's new, but he doesn't have the clumsy incompetence you may associate with a new hero in a cartoon. He's had his powers for like a few months. As a character, Peter is, well, fine. He's an awkward, nerdy kid who's willing to drop everything to help people without a second thought. Like, classic modern Peter. Apparently, classic comic Peter wasn't really that awkward or nerdy in his beginning, but, well, classic modern Peter anyway. But there's just one thing missing, and what is it? Oh right, Uncle Ben. The show seems to have glossed over Uncle Ben and the whole great power and great responsibility thing. We don't see him before Peter gets his powers, and we don't even see his death, so it seems Peter just didn't make his defining mistake and learn from it. In fact, it seems like it's likely Uncle Ben actually died before the show began. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe he died off screen between Peter getting his powers and where the show proper actually starts, and they just weirdly decided to gloss over it. But without the whole great power, great responsibility lesson, we don't really see the change that becoming Spider-Man ignites in Peter, which is turning some Spider-Man fans off. He's a more laid-back Peter, without the character depth.
Whoa!
So, what about the other characters? I like this dynamic with Nico, who, give me a second, let me check the internet. Yeah, I thought so. Aunt May is really the only normal person in Peter's life, huh? He also has a crush on an older girl called Pearl. 1 second. Wow, her too? Anyway, he likes Pearl, but I find his relationship with her boyfriend Lonnie, better known as Tombstone, far more interesting. I've already said I don't like him not already being albino. Look, I don't know much about Tombstone, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure being ostracized for being albino is a notable part of his backstory. He's already dealing with racism here, just at that. Where was I? Oh, yeah, I like their relationship, partially because Peter, talks to him. I know he's probably not actually going to end up dating Pearl, but I think it's so funny to consider a love interest because of how much more developed Peter's dynamic with her boyfriend is. Like, people trying to write romance stories. You see how easy it is to build audience investment in dynamics when the characters actually talk to each other? There were some other faces I recognized. Amadeus Cho, Dr. Connors, don't have much to say about them. There's a lot of this will probably become relevant later in this episode. I like the dialogue, particularly when Peter Parker is talking to someone. The cast has good chemistry, though there are some moments where I thought what they were saying was pretty baffling, like Nico telling Peter to be late for his new job so he can watch a football game, or everything the Wakandan girl said not related to Peter being an arsonist. Spider-Man's Spider-Manisms weren't bad either. Admittedly, I thought the action was kind of slow, just pick up the pacing a little. And then there's his costume. Wow, I guess he has to earn a proper Spider-Man suit, or he'll get it from Norman. I'm aware Norman is supporting Peter in the comics right now, so I was kind of expecting that with his character here. Introducing him pretty much exactly like how Tony met Peter in Captain America Civil War sealed the deal for me. I'm confident he already knew Peter was Spider-Man. Why else would he go to his house and tell him to come see him in his office as soon as he shows up? This is the thing that actually successfully hooked me. Mostly because I know they're gonna have to do something with it immediately. Ironically, with the show having already been greenlit for season 3, every other setup has a good chance of not getting to the payoff for years. Not a fan of the idea of Peter not making his own suit though. Superheroes have just gotten less capable of doing things on their own over the years. Oh, that's another CW Flash reference. And yes, I know this cartoon takes a lot from the MCU, and not really a fan of Peter not building his own suit there either. This show is written in a way where it needs an overarching plotline. It's not trying to be a Monster of the Week series, but it's also not written to have one until episode 2, so the first episode feels meandering. I like the things that happened in it, but it didn't have a narrative to wrap those things around. Tombstone's home life, for instance, was just completely irrelevant. I can do the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of recognizing names, but that guarantees nothing besides the idea that one day his friends will get powers. You know the main reason I want to check out episode 3? I want to see the other employees and interns' reactions to Peter practically becoming Norman's favorite employee after everything in episode 2. The second main reason is to finally get a glimpse as to what the plot of the show even is. So, mixed feelings. But I am willing to give it a chance and hope it's at least as good as the first season of CW's Flash was. I don't know why I keep bringing that show up. Shout out to my patrons, A, Skyman and Theo Gales. What were your thoughts on this show? Tell me in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content. Thank you, and good day.